Welcome back to Cityscape. In this episode of Secret People, we will cover Frédéric Bastiat, a French economist and writer known for shedding light on the errors of several popular political practices. The official birth of economics as a distinct field may be traced back to 1776, when a Scottish philosopher, Adam Smith, published his masterpiece on the wealth of nations. This is the same year America won its independence from Britain, ironically. Ever since that day, humanity has been slowly learning the lessons economics has given them. The result of this knowledge is what gave birth to this complex market system that no single expert today can understand. Despite economics being over 200 years old as a field now, much of its fundamental lessons have not yet become collective knowledge. In fact, our guest in this episode argues that the widespread dismissal of basic economic laws is what's harming the forward evolution of societies around the world. Bastiat believes a society is a singular organism, and tampering with economic activities through policy disturbs the homeostasis of this macro being. Is this fantastical thinking, or are there indeed fundamental axioms of economics that may prove this reality to be true? As always, let's start with a brief background. Frédéric Bastiat was born on June 29, 1801 in southern France. His father was a prominent businessman, and his mother died when he was 7 years old. His father's estate was acquired during the French Revolution, and 10 years later, his father would also die, leaving Bastiat an orphan. Bastiat was then taken in by his grandfather, who also had great wealth, which he left to Bastiat when he passed away. Bastiat would begin his economics career in 1844, when his first article was published in a journal of economics. He would spend the rest of his life traveling and evangelizing economic principles. But unfortunately, this mission was cut short due to his death from tuberculosis at age 49. Although Bastiat died prematurely, he left some key works with us, one of which is called That Which Is Seen and That Which Is Unseen, and another masterpiece titled The Law. Let's take a look at both. That Which Is Seen and That Which Is Unseen is centered around debunking economic myth. Myths that are not only common amongst politicians, but also accepted by the general public. One example is that of defense spending. It is commonly believed that the military-industrial complex is a huge source of wealth. The military provides jobs to an immensely large number of people by enlisting them into the armed forces. It also supports a large number of civilian work through the countless companies who sell their goods and services as defense contractors. Most people view military spending as a positive. Our borders are protected and countless jobs are created. Bastiat, however, states that this is an error. To illustrate his point, he uses the following example. Let's just say a sentry is hired to do patrols. He is paid $50,000 a year to deploy overseas and fight a war. In this case, $50,000 is spent, but nothing is added to the national wealth. Had this $50,000 not been withdrawn from the taxpayer, this wage would have supported, say, a carpenter to build a new house. In the latter case, $50,000 is spent, but a new house is added to the economy. This analogy holds true on a larger scale. Our defense budget is $742 billion. The money is spent, jobs are created, but nothing is really gained, other than a feeling of security. Had this $742 billion been made available to the public, the amount of new goods and services that would flood the market would make all of us collectively richer. Another good example Bastiat uses is the broken window fallacy. A burglar breaks a window to rob a house. The homeowner finds himself having to spend $500 to fix the window. Many economists argue that this destruction is stimulative to the economy, for it forces the homeowner to employ a glassmaker he otherwise would not have hired. Well, the glassmaker being hired to fix the broken window is what we see. What we don't see is that the $500 would have been used to employ, say, a shoemaker and a baker. In the first situation, the owner spends $500 on windows and is no better off than he was before. He's gained nothing. In the latter, he has a chocolate cake and a new pair of shoes. Since the window was never broken, he has that too. Not to even mention the fact that a shoemaker and a baker has been given business. What Bastiat wants to drive home is that for every economic policy passed into law, there's an effect you see and one that you don't see. You can see this as the economic equivalent of Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Bastiat urges the reader to look for the effects that are not seen, not just focus on the benefits that are seen. Take Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program for an example. There's a positive effect we all see, in this case, the student debt being eliminated. But there are also effects we don't see, such as the incentive for colleges to charge more for tuition since they know the government will ultimately pay the bill. Another negative effect is that people will delinquently take student debt because they know the debt will be more or less forgiven. Can you name other unseen effects as a result of this bill? Post them in a comment section. In any case, I am just scratching the surface at Bastiat's work. His two masterpieces are short but contain powerful lessons. I believe these two books are culturally important and recommend everyone reading them. They can be easily read in a single afternoon. Link is in the description. We live in a world where economic blindness prevails. People believe the government can spend an unlimited amount of money as if wealth can be decreed by legislation. Healthcare, education, shelter, etc. are all services that require equipment and human labor. The government cannot give them to anyone without first taking it from someone else. In other words, something's gotta give. We cannot get all these goodies from the government for free. Nevertheless, economic blindness prevails. People continue to make demands from the government as if it is some sort of omnipotent god that can somehow legislate wealth into existence. Why is such elementary common sense lacking amongst the average individual? I believe it is because the lessons of Bastiat are not taught to the public at a young age. If these lessons were taught, people would realize that for everything the government gives, it has to take something from the public with interest. It is not the rich that pay for these programs, it is us. In any case, what is your role in all this, you may think? Well, it's simple. I mentioned earlier that Bastiat made his mission to travel Europe and evangelize these economic truths. You can continue Bastiat's work by evangelizing his discoveries within your circle of influence. See you next time.